Okay, got it. Hey Rex, how are
Hey,
you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
All good.
Hey, Razor.
And yes, sir. How are you? And how's the thing going there?
Good, good. It's a little late, so I'm just
No
gonna
issues.
keep
It's
it
completely
quiet.
fine. Yes,
All right.
got it. Completely fine. And we already set up the stage for you. And I guess we are good to go. And the stage is all yours, sir.
Awesome. Now, how will I do the slides, or will you do the slides, or how does this work?
You can share your screen. There's like just below your panel, there is a screen share option. Just below your window,
Mm-hmm.
there are 5 options available, right? The mic, the video for the camera, and then there's in the middle there's a share screen.
Okay. I'm just bringing the presentation up.
Got it.
Okay, can you see it? Are you still there?
Not yet.
Okay, I'm trying to come back. Okay, hold on. So yeah, all right, share screen. Okay, is that
Yes, now
working?
we can see it.
Okay, now. All right. Can you see the DeFi Safety Pres?
Yes, we can see it now.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you very much. And it's so great to be able to speak with you and to give you a little bit of a background about DeFi safety. Um, our mission is to provide accurate, unbiased, trustworthy reviews. What we're really evolving into is an independent technical risk review data source. So we don't talk too much about the financials. We don't talk about tokenomics. We focus on security through transparency and uh, accuracy in the information they provide. So we do this through a couple of products. One, or what we started with, we started back in the beginning of DeFi summer, so May 2020. So we've been doing this now. It's coming on 2 years, which is funny when you think about it. But our PQRs are process quality reviews. So we knew an awful lot of the auditors, and my background is on aerospace safety, aerospace software security. So what I felt was I could add a little bit of um, input into the whole process without going deep into the software side, because I'm not quite as good at software as the auditors, but I had an awful lot on the software security idea by looking at the software process, quality, and transparency. So we came up with PQR reviews in May 2020, and that's our main product. We've got 171 on the website on I think it's 9 chains now, and that is primarily in there. You've got equivalent scores for each protocol, and the idea there is for somebody who is not technical, he can't read audits, they don't know about it. It gives them a simple, consistent 0 to 100 score that they can look at and do an apples to apples comparison between protocols with just one number. And if they want, they can dig deeper. Our second product is what we call contract scores. Now, this is new. We've been doing it for about 4 months, and this is jumping down to the next level. So we're not looking at a protocol and all of the products sort of encompassed into one number. We are looking at each individual pool. And by pool, we mean that the smart contract address that you would interface with when you deposit to the contract using your wallet. So with each contract address, you would have one score. And our score is based on a mixture of maturity, which is how long has the contract successfully held value, plus the PQR score, plus whether or not that individual contract on that chain has been audited. So all of this is combined into a single contract score. So we've got the process quality review product, and we've got the contract scores product. And that's a little bit just sort of an introduction of what we do. So, we're trying to, in a simple way, focus on the vulnerability of the contracts and to give, as we said, clear information, because our target market are the users of DeFi. So we work towards giving them security information in a clear way that they can understand. Another thing that has been a big focus for the past while in our process, we update our process, I guess, about every 6 months. We're up to version 8 now. And one thing that we've been developing is access controls. To start with, we didn't look at it, but over time we came in because more and more smart contracts are updatable. And if you're an investor and you put money in an updatable contract and you don't understand how often they can update it, then theoretically, worst case, which we haven't seen much, but is technically possible, the developers can simply change the contract such that they can take all of their money and keep it. The worst example of this was about halfway through, I would say, very late 2020, which was Compounder.finance, which was a fork of Compound Finance that they got an awful lot of TVL. They were doing very successful, and their code was indeed a direct fork of Compound until they updated it, which allowed them to basically take away people's money. So it did happen. It did happen once. And for this reason, we're looking at protocols to be very clear to their users in language that users can understand, not software language. How updatable are the contracts? Are they updatable? Are they immutable? Is there a time lock between it? Is it on a multi-sig? Just how easy is it for the developer to change the software without without the audience being able to know the change beforehand? A time lock is extremely useful in that case. So a little bit, okay, stand by 1 second. Oh, excuse me, guys. Oh, I caught a bug at the F Denver hackathon, and that's been causing me to sneeze for the past couple of days. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so our PQR process, getting a little bit deeper into that. So the process is basically, we ask 28 questions looking at the public information that a protocol displays. And we look at a number of factors, and I'm going to sneeze some more. Sorry about that, guys. Please step away from your screens if you don't want to catch this. And you don't want to catch this. All right, so the PQR process. We look at code and team, documentation, testing, security, admin controls, as I mentioned, and then oracles. So code and team, the most important thing is tell us where your contract addresses are. Early on, honestly, that wasn't in there that much, but now I would say virtually all the time people display it. So we find out where the addresses are, where the GitHub is the contract indeed being executed regularly, and is the team anon or not? Now, we totally understand why people have anon teams, and you can get a 97%, I think it is, having an anon team. So yes, you are penalized for it, but not a lot. It is nicer if you know who you're dealing with from a security point of view. But this being DeFi, us understanding all of the aspects of it, yes, it's a penalty, but it's a small one. Documentation. I mean, a lot of what we're looking at with the process quality reviews is we would like an outsider to be able to verify the operation of the code before they start executing it. So imagine somebody wants to invest into DeFi, but before they do, they want to be able to validate that the code will do what the website says. By having clearly documented and tested code, then a third-party coder, doesn't have to be an auditor, would be able to go through the code and the documentation and validate, yes, I can see how it works, I can see what the fees are, I can see the method of it, yes, it does what it says it does. And in this way, it's possible for DeFi to be more transparent, more trustworthy, to give better security than traditional finance, because everything is clearly out in the open. And of course, merely having the code in a GitHub with no documentation on how it's doing is not something that somebody can validate. However, if you've got proper documentation, then a third party can validate it. In the same reason, testing. And testing says a few things. One, it proves that you've got a dev team behind the protocol team. And with some of the smaller, quicker protocols, you get the impression that they have quickly rented dev teams, and the actual people running the protocol don't have a dev team behind them. And with this, you get people who aren't able to show that they're constantly testing their code as they make changes and as they make updates. So in the testing section, we look at, does the developer have a full test suite? Do they have instructions on how to run the test? And have they run the tests on the deployed code, shown the code coverage, and shown that they have a full test report. And one of our biggest bugaboos, as I said, I'm an aerospace guy. With aerospace, it is an absolute requirement that you have a detailed test report when you present a piece of software avionics, in order to prove that, yes, I've tested it, here's the test results. In DeFi, primarily, you don't end up with a test report. Sometimes they'll say, "I'll just run the tests," which is often more difficult than they say. So for deployed code, it would be immensely valuable if people did test reports, and that's one of the aspects that comes up. So then we look at security, which is the audit, if they have one, and bug bounty. So for the audit, DeFiSafety is pretty well professional audit readers. So we don't write audits, but we do read them consistently. And reading the audits, you can generally, we'll look at the complexity of the audit, when the audit was done. Was the audit done before deployment, or was it done after deployment? Especially with some lower budget protocols, you sort of can understand that they deploy quickly without being audited, and then when they're able to get an audit, either financial or just the delay that the auditor gives, then they print the audit report. Often the problem with that is if the auditor finds problems, unless they have updatable code, they aren't able to improve any of the recommendations from the auditors. So they lose points for that. If if the audit is done after deployment, if the audit complexity doesn't match the code, for instance, you have a very complex DeFi protocol, a very original use, yet the audit merely looks for basic reentrancy and code. They basically run some automated tests and then they say it. You'll lose points for that, because in order to be able to properly audit something very new and very complex, you need to have really look at the financial aspects of it. And that is something that only some auditors do. So yes, we read the audit and we give a score. That's probably one of the most complex parts of our whole PQR process, because there's so many aspects that come into it. So yeah, we're professional audit readers and we give a score for that. Next thing we do in the security aspect is bug bounty. It's a tremendous aid to security if you have a strong bug bounty. And let's face it, the purpose of a bug bounty is it's the last defense before a hack. So if a problem has been found by an attacker that, is sitting there saying, do I put the white hat on? Do I put the black hat on? If you have a big bug bounty, then he'll sit back and say, you know something? I will put the white hat on. I will disclose this because the payout is so big and it's legal. It's more worthwhile to me than actually stealing the money. And then, if you steal the money, you have to it'll be tracked, and you have to get it into your hands in order to make a profit. That is tougher. It's than such that a good bug bounty, it's legal, clear money. Another thing with bug bounties, it's good to have an organization such as Immunify to work with you, because they will act as your coach in claiming the bounty, which is a huge advantage when you're trying to do it, because negotiating with the guy on your own, the person who discloses the bug is not in the strongest of position. But because these people have already got the bug bounty organized with a third-party organization, they will be more likely to follow through on the bug bounty, which is one of the weaknesses of it. So we give points on the value of the bug bounty with respect to TVL, plus plus whether or not they're working with an organization such as Immunify in order to coach them. So the final aspect, or sorry, then we go to admin controls, and I already spoke about that. And this is how much change can the software developers, how much can the software developers change the software, and are they clear? In this case, first of all, a few things. One, this section is basically says upgradability is a bug. The only way to get 100% in this section is to have immutable code. If you've got immutable code, you will just coast through this section, though please clearly say that you have immutable code. By this, it is an unfair thing to assume that all they have to do is look at the code and it's obvious that it's immutable, because people such as let's say financial people don't understand the code, but they do express security by immutable code. They know the difference between immutable and upgradable. So if you have immutable code, just clearly say so in your documentation. It's not hard. So the final aspect, which is something that we just put in our recent improvement of the code, the 0.8, is oracles. And here we're looking for documentation on oracles, and we're looking at documentation on oracles on a couple of aspects. Is your Oracle architecture flash loan protecting, if applicable? And we focus on the Oracle and the Oracle documentation. So just quickly, that is a sort of a detailed review of what we do with our PQR process. And something bad has happened. Okay, hold on. That's better. So the PQR report, we put it down in a straightforward score where you, as I said, an overall score. And for us, a pass is 70%. So what you'll see on the thing is the overall score, and then the breakdown of the individual scores in each of the 5 areas that I already discussed. And each of them have a number of questions. And then you'll get the report date, you'll get whether or not there are any security incidents. So for us, security incidents are hacks or exploits or other security incidents. So another security incident might be the front end thing that happened to Badger. A hack is where there is a definite attack by a bad actor on the code, which causes a loss of value. An exploit might be something like the compound incident where a coding error causes a loss of funds. And it wasn't really a bad actor, it was a procedural error that caused the problem. When we review, we look at these questions based on the public data. And if the data isn't there, the points aren't there, and this can result in quite low scores. And we don't pull our punches. I think the lowest score that we have is like 5%. So if you look at the PQR reports that we have, you'll see everything from the very, very high 90s. I'm not sure if we still, Balancer had 100% in our previous report, the 0.7, so that's probably still. So you go from the very, very high to the very, very low, and it really depends on the protocol. And something else, when we do this, when we do a review, the first thing that we look at is the public information. We answer the 28 questions. We put it into a report. The report has links so that you can clearly see where we got the answers for each question. And then we present this to the dev team privately. So we reach out to them via Discord. We say, we did a review. We'd like to show you the report. And we show it to them privately before we publish it. And they will either ignore it, which happens in, I would say, some cases. I wouldn't say a lot. And then it comes down to if they sit back and go, oh, no, this information is over here, we immediately correct it. If they say, oh, we want to improve that, then we will give them a chance to make improvements, but we won't delay the publishing too much. But if a team is sitting there saying, oh, okay, some things, such as documentation or testing, can take a while to implement. It's not something that will be done in a day or two. Though interestingly, access controls truly is. You can, because with access controls, we're not saying what is right or wrong. We're simply saying be clear and honest and succinct in your documentation, and you'll get as much points as you have. If you have updatable code, you can get, say, 90% if you answer all of the questions very, very clearly. So you're being transparent. It may say that all of my code is completely updatable. It's all on my private key, and there's no time lock. Then, beware when you invest in it. The code can change at any time, and you'll get no warning. But at least you're transparent and you're clearly saying that. The way you'll get a very low access controls is simply not saying anything about this. And then it's even worse. In one case, at least you're clear and honest, but there you're just obfuscating, and that's where you get the low scores. So this is how we present the scores. You'll see the version, you'll see all the chains that the protocol is on, and the security incident and such. So in the questions, we can go over if there's anything that I missed there. So let's talk about contract scores, which is the new product that we're in beta in, as I said, and we've been running this for about 3 months. So this is a much younger product, and it still has an awful lot to grow. And they're designed to give investors simple technical ratings on the security and transparency of DeFi products. So by DeFi products, we mean an individual curve pool, an individual yearn pool, the address that you interface with. Now, an interesting aspect of this, if a very big protocol, all interfaces are through one proxy address, then the entire protocol gets one contract score. So Synthetics, for instance, has one contract score for the entire protocol, even though it's an immensely complex protocol. Whereas, say, Badger Finance or Curve have hundreds because every single pool has their own address and their own score. So the information that you'll see there is the name of the contract address. So, Badger WBTC, the contract address, and the contract score, which is developed by an algorithm which takes into account what I mentioned before: maturity, PQR score, audit status, and hack status, whether or not there's been any security incidents into it, all of that into one score, which is updated daily per protocol through the maturity score. So just an example here, if you look at Aave v2, they have a 96% contract score. So it's a very old contract, over a year. It's holding $1 billion, has not had a security incident in it in that entire time, in over a year. And they have a very high PQR score, a 91 out of 100. So that will give them, on mainnet, a 96%. This is a near perfect score. And, no surprise with Aave, which is as blue chip as you can get in DeFi. So another aspect that we're bringing in, and we'll be bringing in on both the PQRs and on contract scores, penalties for security incidents or hacks. And here you can see a list of some of the hacks that have come out. So you can see the big cream hack in October, and we come down and we look at, for instance, we define them as a hack or an exploit. I define the difference. So a hack is a clear bad actor taking value out of the protocol, where an exploit is something else. So the compound was an exploit, the Badger front end thing was an exploit. And then when we look at it, we go over the reports from people like Rect and information on the F-Security Telegram channel and other information. And we try to find out, generally with this, you get an idea of, is this something that in an ideal world they could have seen? So if you look at, say, the compound hack or the compound incident where they had a greater than rather than a greater than an equal sign, what is the result there? Yeah, they could have seen that. So that is clearly a preventable incident, and there's a different scoring for that. Whereas if you take a look at the big cream hack, this was an original way to use a new DeFi product, and an awful lot of people were surprised by it. So this was unforeseeable, and you know, a preventable gets a bigger penalty than an unforeseeable. We also say whether it's major or minor. In this way, we're talking about if it's more than 15, if the loss is more than 15% of the TVL, and honestly, as we went through, virtually everything is a minor, because even some of these very, very big hacks end up being small as per the TVL on the point. So all of this we calculate into a penalty. We have some guidance in there using all of the aspects that I mentioned, and you get something between 5 and 25% as far as a penalty. And this is then subtracted from the PQR score. So if you have a 70% and you have a 15% penalty, then you would have a 55% as your resulting score. The other thing that we'll say is this is cumulative. So if you look at Cream with the AMP hack, which was clearly preventable because they didn't read the AMP token contract before they implemented it in the pool, thus opening an attack vector, which a little bird told me they had been told about in their audit report. So the 25% and the 15% means a 40% penalty for Cream. And we have, at least at this point, we have said that these penalties will be attributed to a protocol for 6 months. So this is an arbitrary date that we picked. After 6 months, the penalty for a security incident is forgiven. Now, one thing that I can put out that when we look at this, that I think from a security perspective is something that DeFiSafety would say rather than some of the auditors. If we look at the compound hack, and you start to see that these are things that and the Cream AMP hack, just looking at those two examples, these are security incidents that took place because they were not being careful enough with the day-to-day activities of their protocol. So in the case of Compound, they had one dev without a lot of support doing the code, the test, the deployment to the test net, and then the presentation to the auditor. It was pretty much a one-man show. In aerospace, you wouldn't have generally the same person writing the code is writing the tests. You would have a quality person involved. And if you sit back, and especially if you look at somebody like Compound that is dealing with billions of dollars of other people's money, for them to have a team look at all code changes is not asking too much, and it will add safety. And if you look at that, I think it was he was a very good dev. He didn't do anything wrong. He was entirely capable, but it was an oversight. That happens. But if you have 3 or 4 eyes going over the process, and yes, they did have an auditor take a look at it at the end, but I think he missed it. But if you'd had people involved in the development process, multiple people, then this very much could have been something that was recognized earlier. Simply put, with DeFi, we all want to be slimmer, meaner, leaner than TradFi, and there is much to be said for that. But by the same token, when you're dealing with massive amounts of other people's money, making sure that you have enough people on looking at things is absolutely important. And when you look at the Cream hack, where it was an ERC 1155 token, the AMP token, rather than an ERC 20, and that was it's a different token. The code is quite different, and that opened up an attack vector. That was once again people not looking. So I would say, especially over the past year, the big lesson that we would put towards protocols is build up your team so that you have enough people looking at the steps that you do in the operation of your protocol to minimize mistakes. And both of these were clearly things that should have been caught before they went into production. Okay, enough on that slide. So that's pretty much the summary of what we wanted to say. We do have new products coming up. We are considering or in development of chain scores, where we will actually give scores for chains. We are looking at things like putting in an aspect of developer response time, because that's a metric that we find is indicative of a good protocol that we do have. So there's a lot that we're looking at building, and fundamentally just giving an idea. As you can probably see, what we do is built on people, experienced people looking at DeFi protocols. So we have avoided automation. Automation can give you some data, but a lot of the time, taking the time to find the data yourself tells you more about the protocol. A good example here is sorry, I lost my thought. Oh yes, looking for the contract scores. So the contract addresses should be easy to find on the website. Now, it doesn't have to be, standing out in big bright lights, because it is a developer aspect, but it shouldn't be hard to find. Our basic thing is in 2 or 3 clicks, you should clearly be able to find it. Like, say, you go to the software documentation and they have a contract scores aspect in it. You could make a bot that could find the contract scores 100% of the time, but it would be much more difficult to make a bot that looks at the labeling on the website to make sure that it's clear and findable, and that's where you need experienced eyes on it. So we truly are people analysts looking at DeFi, and we learn, we change our perspective, we change our process, and yeah, our process gets bigger over time because we should all be improving. So that's one aspect. Another aspect that I would focus on is our customers, but then we're not charging yet, but we will be charging within the next 3 to 4 months, is DeFi users. Now, I would say our aim is more for institutional DeFi users, the larger private houses, hedge funds, because they're used to paying for their data. But the important thing is we're not paid at any point by the protocols, and we want to get the money from the DeFi users so that we're clearly and consistently independent, which I suppose is the big thing that I'll leave you with. Our mantra is independent, transparent, and objective. So independent, we're not paid by the protocols, so the information is just from us to you, the DeFi user. Transparent, we expect the protocols to be transparent, but we live by example. We show our work. We show our process. If you want to ask why you got a low score, it comes down to which of the 28 questions would you like to improve on? And then the information has to be public or you don't get scored for it. And then the final thing is objective. Because we're independent, we keep ourselves objective on all of these aspects, and we try to be as fair to the DeFi protocol and to the DeFi user as we can, but with the idea of the DeFi users getting a clear idea of the security. And then the final thing, the PPS that I'll leave with, end of last year, as I said, we've been doing this. We've done, I think, 300 reviews. And right now we have 171 protocols. One, because we've retired some protocols because they're dead. And two, because we've reviewed many protocols like Curve, Compound Balancer many times because they've updated their process and we've updated their process. Anyway, so we've done a lot of reviews over a long time. So it came down, does the DeFiSafety review score actually work? Does it actually reflect safer protocols? Because a cynic could say, all you guys are doing is checking if there's code in docs. You're not looking at the code, so you have no idea whether it's safe or not. However, when we looked back on a year and a half of data, what we said was, if your PQR score is over 80%, then you have about a 96% chance of not being hacked. And by not being hacked, we're basically saying from July 2020 to December 2021, which is basically forever in DeFi time, has not been hacked or had a security incident, to use the proper act. All of that to say that I think we're onto something, and the DeFi safety scores do appear to truly reflect safety in DeFi. Okay, that's me done talking. How's that?
That's so wonderful, Rex. And we are getting like a lot many cool aspects from DeFiSafety and the PQRs and all. We have a bunch of questions for you to answer.
Mm-hmm.
So just be ready. So the first
Okay.
question, that I want to ask, like coming straight from me only. So it's like, yes, so just want to recap and just want to pick up a very cool point that these points, right, like DeFiSafety, the PQRs, the contract scores, it's like bridging the gap of trust that is between users and, you can say, the contracts and the protocols that they try to interact with, right? Like most of the time people are not that much technical, but they want to trust the protocol, but I guess there are not enough options for anyone to get an idea whom to trust, whom to look for, right? They just have to
Mm-hmm.
trust the you can say UI or whatever they have given us or they have said to us, right? So I very much liked two of the questions that are being asked, and one is the team itself, right? So it is like scoring the team as well, because most of the time we are ignore this aspect. We just focus on the technical side and don't really care much about whether the team is anon or not, but that really matters, right? And the second I really like is the upgradable contracts, right? uh, because we are now shifting somewhat shifting from the notion of immutability, which is the fundamental concept of blockchain, that you are supposed to have the immutable code. That's why we are coming onto the blockchain, right? We are shifting to the Web3 world, but that notion is being now changed to upgradable contracts. Like you have upgradable contract, you can now change the logic whenever you want, right? So I want to know, like, there are some questions. So I want to know, like, as you pointed out, that it's like the scores are being deducted as a result of hack, or like there is a penalty. So I want to know, like, will these scores can also go up after some time? If they do certain implementation, they fixes their code. Like, what is the procedure?
So 100%, we are all about improving the transparency and security of the codes. So if the protocol does the work to improve on any of the questions that are there, and they show this information publicly, pardon me, my Buffy Cron is not all gone.
That was still good.
Um, then we will increase the score. And with respect to the penalties, after 6 months, they're forgiven.
Got it.
And
Got it.
let's just say that's the number that we picked in our version 1 of the security penalties. And we'll look at that probably 4 to 6 months down the line, and just look at the results that we have, the security incidents that we've recorded, and just sort of review to say, is that fair? Should we change it?
Right, right. And another thing that you pointed, that there's like a very less automation, or we can say no automation, is like purely dependent upon the minds that you put into reading reports and things like that,
Mhm.
right? So
Yes.
I want to know, like, is it a tough task to constantly monitor like these protocols? Because they can do a change. Let's say we have given a score today, and they have made a change in the contracts the other day. So how are these things constantly monitored? Like, is it a tough task?
Well, yes, it's a tough task. We have a team of 5 reviewers right now, and we are
Hmm.
hoping to increase on that once we switch to our revenue model, which I saw was one of the questions. Um, so once we've got that, we'll be hiring more. Um, Protocols don't change their process, like go from balancer V1 to balancer V2 to V3 that often. We focus on the bigger protocols. So, I mean, if you look at RugDoc, they're looking at the things that pop up and pop down. We miss a lot of those. And if you look at the target DeFi users that we're doing, which are more the people who are looking at investing in DeFi, I would say more for the long term and more in a more sophisticated manner, they're going to be looking at the bigger protocols. Now, new, I mean, say when Ohm came up, it caused an awful lot of a bunch of information, and so that was something that we added quite quickly. We look at the new exciting protocols, but we're looking for more long lasting, and for that reason, the number of reviews that we do is not the every single protocol that ever popped up. So we're able to keep up, though definitely we do need more, and we're always looking at our process in how lean can it be, because we want to be able to go from one review to another. I mean, if you look at our Twitter, you'll see that functionally we are producing a new review each business day.
Got it. Got it. So another thing that I want to know is
There
like,
was there was one guy in there who was asking about the process quality review
yes,
thing. So I just sort of showed the links to it.
you can share the links in the private chat, and we can
Mhm.
forward it.
Okay, so I'll do that, but I just sort of showed the process in here. So
Right.
yeah,
Got it.
okay.
Yes. Another question that I have is like, uh, is DeFi safety currently monitoring only the well-known protocols, or is it like can someone launch their protocol with DeFi safety if they want to, like having a score or want to make a trustful environment, and want to showcase the score to the community, right? So can someone launch their protocol with DeFi safety as well?
I mean, we take requests,
Mm-hmm.
but we will give priority to to requests to protocols that already have a reasonable amount of TVL, a reasonable
Mm-hmm.
number of users. So if you were a true startup, it would be more difficult for you to for us to review you. We don't say audit, we say review because what we do isn't audit. We would not give priority to a protocol that is just coming up.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay, and the last one is like uh, uh, I've already gone through the PQRs, and they are listed in a quite nice manner. Like another thing that I want to like want to look forward, like that would be another great thing. So it's like, can DeFi safety, or like is DeFi safety looking forward to a collaboration with some block explorers like Etherscan and all? Because most of the time developers just go over to these explorers, and most of the time users as well. So
Mm-hmm.
block explorers is like a very handy tool, and sometimes give us like lots of information is straightforward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Giving you the prices from integrated from Chainlink. So would it be nice if we like see in future score itself popping up on the like address?
We're not involved with Etherscan yet. We do have an API and we do have integrations. And as an example, if you look up a protocol on CoinGecko
Mhm.
and you the security tab, you'll see our scores right there. But we haven't been in conversation with Etherscan or Arbiscan or any of those yet. I think there is an area where you can put a review in manually, but we haven't been doing that as yet.
Mhm. Got it. So, okay, so those were my questions, and I guess you have already answered the questions from the viewers. There's one question, like I can see. So it's like somebody's asking, what were your thoughts? Like, how did you come up to launch something like DeFi Safety? What was the motivation?
So I just came back from Eth Denver 2022, and that's my
Mm-hmm.
fourth Eth Denver.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there's a guy at Consensus called Kurt Dameron that was on a phone call with, and he said, I was like, I love Ethereum. How can I get involved? This is 2017, and he said, go to a hackathon. So
Mm-hmm.
when I went to the hackathon, I was talking with the people, and it's like, how can I help? How can I contribute? And they throw it right back at me, saying, well, how can you help? What can you do? And it took a little while. Realized I had a friend who's still in the space, um, and I software quality on aircraft is an extremely mature and comprehensive process. They have a process DO 178D. It's extremely comprehensive, and it makes safe code, and they can update it and it stays safe. And there's a lot to be said for that. So what I sort of realized is, okay, this is something that I know from my work in corporate. So helping in this is going to be my way. And I started something called secureth.org, which was a it basically gave a bunch of processes and documentation on how to do a good protocol. And we had some money from the Ethereum Foundation to help out, but it really didn't go anywhere because there was no incentive for people to follow it. It was kind of, this is interesting, but it doesn't really show that much. So, the crypto winter, I kind of took off. And then when COVID came around, and let's just say I suddenly had an awful lot of spare time from my regular job. I wanted to get back into DeFi, and it was just when DeFi summer was getting started. So I started in like April 2020, and I suddenly realized, and a lot thing that I'd thought a lot was, how can I incentivize people to actually make a difference if I review them? And the solution to that, which is what we have, is name and shame. So, if you don't do the processes, you're going to have a low score. But if you do the processes, we'll increase your score without hesitation. And all of that came up to be the beginning of DeFiSafety, which, as I said, we did our first reviews, I think, in May 2020.
Got it. That's a great journey that I can see. That's
Yeah.
right. Yes. And we're
When
actually
I,
looking forward. Yep.
yeah. Oh, yeah. No, we have an awful lot of intent to grow, and
Mhm.
I think we've got good wind behind ourselves. As I said, we want to start getting revenue, get ourselves self-standing. So yeah, I think we're going to grow, and I think we're going to be able to continue to contribute. So yeah, it's exciting times.
Yeah, for sure, and like all the best wishes from our side, and like was an honor for us to have you with us, like for being a part of UnChained and sharing a cool new aspect that I guess will be a revolution soon. Hoping
Hmm.
for it. Yes, because well, like a very much needed thing that I can see from my perspective, and hoping it becomes like a very acceptable soon. So all the best wishes, and yeah, once again, wants to thanks to the like whole team of DeFiSafety, and looking forward to see you soon, probably in our next event.
Excellent. No, it was. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate, and I'll keep watching for a little bit. It's kind of late here. On
Yes.
the presentations.
Right, for sure. And so, bye bye, guys. This was Rex from DeFiSafety. Had a cool new talk, and it was a great presentation. Hope you have learned a lot. And yes, just stay connected with DeFiSafety, learn about PQRs and all the information regarding your questions, like where you can see those 28 questions and all those stuff will be attached with the slides and will be shared with you after the presentation, and probably in our Discord. So be ready for the next talk, and let's stay connected.
Cheers,
All right,
guys.
Max. Bye bye. Have a great
Bye.
day. Yeah, I guess have a great night. It's probably late for you.
Mhm.
Yes. All right. See you, Rex.
Cheers.
Bye bye.
Bye.